This week's assignment is creating a symbolic still life. This is typically an assignment for this course. However, we will be completing it a little bit different than normal given our current circumstances. So what exactly is a still life? Well, all of these examples that you see on this screen are examples of still lifes by famous artists. A still life is an arrangement of inanimate objects or items, and it's arranged for the purpose of creating art. Inanimate means items that are not alive. The only exception to this would be flowers or plants that are often featured in still lifes. Generally, though, it's items that are not moving. So why create still lifes? Well, artists have been creating still lifes for many years. It gives the artist an opportunity to arrange the objects and create the composition of their artwork. It's additionally a great way to practice and develop observational drawing techniques when the supplies are available. This is a famous still life by an artist named Juan Sanchez Cotan. I would like you to watch a video about this still life painted in 1602 that is at the San Diego Museum of Art. Please watch that video, which is posted for you on Edpuzzle. This is another example of a still life by an artist you may know, Vincent van Gogh. And an additional example by a famous painter named Wayne Thiebaud. Now, this week's assignment is actually going to be creating a symbolic still life of your own. These are some examples from students last year that I am going to share with you to inspire your own still lifes. You are going to be creating your still life through photography. Now, as you can see in these examples from last year, the way we did it before was first taking the photograph and then creating either a drawing or painting. However, since you don't have access to those supplies currently, we are going to focus on photography for the sake of this project. You will have the option to edit those photographs if you wish to make them black and white or boost the color in some sort of way. So these are some examples from last year. And as you can see, you are picking objects that have some sort of symbolic and personal meaning to you. Now, in this example, this person had a t-shirt, their compass card, and a card that their mother had given to them. And you can see they depicted it in their drawing. Here are some more examples. You can feature things as simple as your sneakers, headphones, anything that has personal meaning to you and that you can explain the symbolism behind it. Think about your composition and the way you're placing these items when you're photographing them. Think about what's in the background. Think about the lighting. And there's no right or wrong. It's objects that are inanimate that you have personal connection to. So let's look a little bit more closely at this example by Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh created this still life of his shoes. What do you think makes this an interesting piece of art? What might you need to think about if you're creating your own still life? So when you're setting up your still life this week, please think about your light source. Light source is going to give you a range of values, and whether you have low light or high values of light, that will greatly impact the way your still life turns out. Think about the architectural features that are going to be in your still life. Will you photograph this by a window or a wall? What's in the background of your photograph? Choose your objects with thought. So think about the shapes of your objects. Think about the color of your objects, repetition, variety. How do you want to arrange your composition, and why do these objects have personal meaning to you? Arrange the objects in a thoughtful composition. Think about how you want the objects to create an interesting perspective for the viewer. You don't need to use fruit or food in your image. That's totally up to you. This is mainly for if you're doing a still life painting or drawing. But if you do, think about letting it maybe spill over. You could do the same thing with the objects that you choose just to make it a little more interesting for the viewer. So despite the fact that you're unable to do a painting or drawing due to our lack of materials like we normally would in this class, there are a lot of famous photographers that do still life photography. And so I wanted to show you a few examples. So this is a photographer named Sharon Core. This is another famous photographer named Irving Penn. He actually had an exhibition featured at the MOPA, the Museum of Photographic Arts in Balboa Park, just a year or so back. Man Ray, another very famous photographer and artist, and these are examples of still lifes. One thing I wanted to point out with these would be considering whether you would like your photograph to be in color or in black and white, and how that impacts the way we interpret the photograph as a viewer. And then this artist, photographer named Jan Groover, another example of still life, and maybe thinking about how reflection could play a role in your work, perhaps utilizing a mirror or plants if you would like to in your piece. So for this symbolic still life, I want you to assemble a group of objects that represent you. Think about your favorite possessions, team, shirt, jeans, objects that relate to a hobby of yours or specific interests, a gift that means a lot to you, favorite books. And it's important to include a range of objects with different sizes and textures, and also thinking about whether these objects are light and dark in their values. So I want you to pick at least 3 objects that have symbolism and are personal meaning to you. Arrange your objects carefully, considering the composition, lighting, and backdrop. Photograph your still life, and then edit your photograph if you wish. You can use a range of editing apps that are free, including Snapseed or Photoshop Express. Those are probably the 2 I would recommend. However, you can use anything you're comfortable with. And you don't have to edit the photo, that's just an option. And then when you're finished, I want you to add your photo to the Google slide presentation with your name and be ready to discuss during our class Zoom meeting on Thursday, May 7th. So here's my example, and this is how you would add yours in the Google slide presentation that I will be sharing with you. So you can see I have my name up top, so I know whose it is to give you credit for it. And then I added my image. I actually did not edit this photo at all, but you can certainly edit the photo any way you wish. The objects that I chose all have specific meaning to me, and I would be able to speak to why I selected these objects. So the pineapple candle, the little art pin, the sand dollar, and this is actually my passport cover, which has specific meaning. And then I even thought about what they're placed on. So the blanket that they're placed on also has specific meaning to me, which I will share in detail when we meet as our class to give you more information. But the items basically can just represent something. So for me, for example, that little art pin, obviously I'm an art teacher, but that pin is from the Philadelphia Museum of Art where I used to work. And additionally, that's where the closest art museum to my home where I grew up. And furthermore, that pin was actually created by a graphic designer named Paula Scher, who is a famous female graphic designer in the industry. So there's a lot of in-depth meaning just behind that little pin and personal connections that I have to it. So this is just an example of one piece of that. And obviously, each of these elements have some sort of special meaning to me, which I will explain more. But you should be prepared to be able to explain why you selected the objects you did and what personal meaning they have to you. So, this project is due Wednesday, May 6th by 9 a.m. That means that you've entered your slide with your photograph into the presentation that is shared with you. And please be ready to share and explain your still life photograph at our next Zoom meeting on Thursday, May 7th. Thank you very much. As always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out and contact me. I am here to help you. And please make sure that you are not forgetting to additionally watch the videos on Edpuzzle this week. They are also should be viewed before Wednesday, May 6th by 9 a.m. Those videos are a video on still life formal analysis by the Getty Museum, as well as a video on the Juan Sanchez Cotan still life at the San Diego Museum of Art. So please make sure to watch both of those videos, as well as get your photographic still life completed by Wednesday, May 6th. All right, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday.